What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bill Bronze and Dragons. I'm your host, Bill Bron Bafflestone. So I'm very excited. This is going to be my first build for the 2024 rule set, the Mercy Killer. So before we jump into this build, I wanted to take a moment to thank all the guys in my Patreon Discord. They're real studs for having stuck with me all these years when I wasn't making videos, and I have come to think of them as good friends. I really appreciate having them in my life to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and I just wanted to say thanks, guys. I really appreciate your support. Special shout out to Jamie, the newest addition to the Patreon, who came up with a name for the build, the Mercy Killer. Also to SK, The Twig, and Mandrax Corto for being the most prolific voices in the Discord. SK especially is one of the funniest dudes I ever met. Casey Kitts for letting me use his Roll20 room, and Chuck for letting me use his D&D Beyond room. So thanks so much, guys. Love you. Really appreciate your support. If you want to join the Patreon, the link will be in the description below. And without further ado, let's check out the Mercy Killer. So I'm really happy with this build. It's a strong build that has a lot of choices involved. It's actually really complicated and fun to pilot. It's not a rookie build. There are a lot of piloting choices available, a lot of analysis necessary to maximize your impact, and I'm actually playing this build, having a ton of fun with it and success with it, but man, the plethora of options really does lead to increased cognitive load. There is a potential for mistakes in play, but honestly, that's what I like out of a good build. The Mercy Killer combines solid damage with interesting control abilities, battle healing, and a solid suite of defenses. We're going to be setting up our allies with a lot of stun and prone, and it is a grappling build, so it's going to benefit greatly from allies that have emanations, and also a thief is a good ally for a grappling build because of their bonus action restrain shenanigans. We are going to start out with fairly standard stats for a monk: Strength 10, Dex 17, Con 14, Intelligence 8, Wisdom 16, and Charisma 8. We made our Strength 10 mostly to round out our long jump to 10. We'll be able to double our jump distances with Step of the Wind, and 10-foot standing long jumps are excellent when dealing with difficult terrain. So I put the 10 in Strength, but if you really want to, you can put the 10 in Intelligence or Charisma if you prefer. We're going to take Tough as our starting feat to increase our durability. It's going to help on a melee PC that has only Con 14 and an unimpressive AC until the mid-levels. The build does ensure that we're often attacked at disadvantage via prone and poisoned and dodge. And to buff our AC, we are going to be looking to add bonus AC items like cloaks and rings of protection or bracers of defense. It's very important to not get hit in 2024 because of so many auto effects that take place on a hit now. The skills will be flexible. I started with acrobatics, survival, stealth, athletics, and perception, but you can take others if you want. Keep in mind we do need calligraphy tools for scroll creation unless we add arcana as one of our skills, and I like calligraphy tools for a monk. I think that's a good roleplay. Makes sense to me, right? For our species, we are going with Hill Giant Goliath. This offers several advantages to the build. First of all, Goliaths start with a move of 35, so that's going to synergize with our fast movement as we increase our move speed over the various levels. Large form synergizes very nicely with the grappler feat. We can grapple up to huge creatures when we're in our large form, and that means we're only in allies in large or a potion of growth away from the ability to grapple any creature, even if they're gargantuan. I've played with a level 20 grappler, and it's pretty amazing when they can get to huge size and grapple any creature. When we're in large form, we will be able to drag large creatures without a move penalty, thanks to the grappler feat, and it's going to confer an extra 10 foot of move, which is a nice bump to our drag distance. And large form has a 10-minute duration, which is going to allow us to precast it in some scenarios. Hill Giant Goliaths also get Hill's Tumble, which knocks an enemy prone if they are large or smaller just when you do damage. So that synergizes very nicely with grapple, because you can't get up from prone if you're grappled. So if you're grappled and prone, you're more or less a dead duck. Powerful build for advantage on escaping grapples is thematic for a grappler build, I think. But keep in mind we don't have dark vision, kind of a hole in the species abilities here. You're going to have to get a lantern or goggles of night. Goggles of night are still non-attunement in 2024, so a very nice item to pick up for this build. Side note, I do miss focused aim from the 2014 rules. I play a monk in the 2014 rule set. I use focused aim a lot, and like I said, I'm playing this build, and there have been several times where I was like, dang, if only I had focused aim right now. That would be a darn good thing. Anyway, moving on into level 1. We are going to start this build with a dip in Ranger. So Ranger 1 is going to give us 14 hit points to start with our +2 con modifier and tough. We will have a starting AC of 16. Our initiative bonus will be +3. Saves are listed with the strength and dex save proficiency highlighted in a different color. We're going to have basic attack and damage. Our starting move will be 35 in our normal form and 45 in large form. And we are going to take Ranger 1 to get Weapon Masteries and Hunter's Mark, which the build will feature for much of our career. Now, I get it. It does exacerbate Monk bonus action Clog. Monks have a lot of available bonus actions. And our con save isn't great, so we will be losing concentration fairly often. But we will start with 4 Hunter's Marks per day. We should be able to do at least 1 per combat, and we can make scrolls to increase the number of uses, mitigating concentration failure. Scrolling is very easy in 2024. It's only going to cost 1 day of downtime and 25 gold pieces, so we should be able to crank out quite a few scrolls to help us with our spell slot endurance. Now, Hunter's Mark is going to give us an added resource besides key points. That's going to help us buff our damage. If you've played a monk, you know the problem with key points is that you're constantly running out of them, especially in the low to mid levels. So Hunter's Mark is going to help us tremendously in that regard. I did consider a fighter dip instead of a ranger dip. And you can do the fighter dip if you want, because we mostly want weapon masteries, and fighter does come with weapon masteries. It will also add second wind, con saves, and a fighting style. I just decided that featuring Hunter's Mark and the casting and scroll capabilities of Ranger made for a stronger build, but you can do the fighter if you want. Do note that we, with the Ranger choice, do not get a fighting style, so we are not going to get stat damage on our Nick attack, but luckily Hunter's Mark should make up for that. Now, Hunter's Mark is going to need to be deployed carefully. It's only going to sometimes improve our output. It will be an added damage resource from levels 1 through 11 while key points are scarce, extending our duration and endurance. But at level 12, when key points are more plentiful, we're going to start using Hunter's Mark less, only against certain enemies, because we can't forget that the opportunity cost of placing the Hunter's Mark is a bonus action. And monks have a martial arts bonus action attack, and they can do Flurry of Blows, which adds 2 attacks now, and it's going to add 3 attacks later in our career. So the basic rule with this build is that levels 1 through 5, we will always use Hunter's Mark, even if enemies die right away and require only 1 attack sequence out of you. Levels 6 through 11, we're only going to use Hunter's Mark against enemies that require 2 or more attack sequences, unless we're low on ki. It's a negative if we use it on weak creatures that die right away. And at level 12, we are going to be using Hunter's Mark only against enemies that require 3 or more attack sequences, again, unless we're low on ki. And that's how we're going to be deploying Hunter's Mark for the rest of our career. Now, do note that estimating the number of attack sequences necessary to kill an enemy does include taking account of what your allies are doing. So there's going to be some judgment involved here, and you're going to make mistakes, probably, but as you and your team get more familiar with working with each other, you should be able to get a better sense of how long an enemy is going to stick around. And so now at level 12, Flurry of Blows is going to be featured more, and Hunter's Mark is going to become more of a backup that we use when we are facing a big enemy that requires 3 or more attack sequences, or when we're low on key points, which again, that happens quite frequently when you're playing a monk, right? Now, I did do some math to support these assertions. I'm going to put it up on the screen, and if you want to check it out, pause the video and go through the math. I'm not going to go through it here on the video. I think that would be just very time-consuming and boring, and not everybody's going to care. If you care, pause the video. It's right here. It justifies the scheme that I just laid out, levels 1 through 20. With spellcasting, we are going to take Jump and Cure Wounds as our spells known. Now, we only have 2 slots, and then we get 2 free Hunter's Mark. So in my mind, we're going to be doing Hunter's Mark 4 times a day, but there is a little bit of flexibility here. In an emergency, if you really need to cast a Jump to get some extra movement, or if you really need to cast a Cure Wounds and you're out of key points and you have no other choice, you can use a spell slot for Cure Wounds. Now keep in mind, we are going to be creating scrolls. Again, only 25 gold pieces and 1 day of downtime per scroll, and the Ranger can change its spells per long rest. So we can scroll any first level spell. We should be able to cast these with abundance as our wealth increases towards the mid levels, maybe not so much in the early levels, but at 25 gold each, we should be able to crank them out once we get into the mid levels. The way this build works, we're always going to have a hand free to use scrolls, and again, losing Hunter's Mark to concentration failure is not as debilitating with backup scrolls. Jump is a very good maneuverability option in 2024. Cure Wounds is obviously awesome to have in abundance on scrolls. And for other scrolls, I like Goodberry, Long Strider, and Fog Cloud. Although honestly, they're all really good. Ultimately, I'd probably have at least 1 of each on every scroll, because you never know. We will be starting with Scale Mail for an AC of 16. Though that does confer disadvantage on stealth rolls, unfortunately. We get 2 masteries. We're going to take Short Sword Mastery for Vex and Scimitar Mastery for Nick. Do check out my friend The Twig's video on 2-weapon fighting. The link will be in the description. He has an awesome channel, and he really goes in depth on how 2-weapon fighting works, so I highly recommend giving it a listen. And then I am going to put up on the screen our attack sequence for first level, which is pretty simple. I'm not going to go through it for the video. It's up on the screen. Check it out. That's how we are going to deploy our powers in level 1. Moving into level 2, we are going to add our first level of Monk. That is going to add Unarmored Defense, Martial Arts, and we're going to switch up our masteries a little bit to take the Dagger, or the Kunai, I like to call it, for a Monk character. Unarmored Defense will allow us to ditch the Scale Mail. It'll keep our AC at 16, but no longer will we have disadvantage on stealth rolls. Now, Martial Arts being online gives us a bonus action Unarmed Strike and allows us to use monk weapons. That's why we are dropping Scimitar for Dagger, because they both have Nick, and with the Martial Arts replacing the damage die, it doesn't matter which one we use, and I just think the Dagger is more thematic. It's also superior because it can be thrown for 2 attacks. You can't throw a Scimitar, so if you ever find yourself needing to throw a Dagger, if you're just not quite close enough, then you can do that. Again, check out the Twigs video on Unarmed Strikes. The link will be in the description. Again, he goes into great detail about how Unarmed Strikes work and how awesome and different they are in 2024. So we are going to have 3 attacks per round. We're level 2. That is very strong for level 2, especially when you add in the fact that we have Hunter's Mark going and it's going to add a d6 to each one of those attacks. I don't normally like to delay extra attack when I'm multiclassing, but since this dip also adds an attack and earlier, I think it's justified. The addition of martial arts is going to change up our attack sequence a bit. I will put it up on the screen and you can see how we are going to be opening in the future for level 2. Moving into level 3, we add a second level of Mercy Monk. That is going to give us a bump to our move to 45 and 55 in large form. Then we get focus points or key points, Step of the Wind, Patient Defense, Flurry of Blows, Unarmored Movement, and Uncanny Metabolism. So first of all, I'm going to be reskinning focus points as key points. I don't like the change of name for 2024, so I'm just going to reskin it back to what I like. Now, Step of the Wind has gotten a buff. It offers a free bonus action dash, so that's fantastic. It's like an always-on expeditious retreat. and an always on concentration first level spell. That's awesome. And it does allow us to spend a key point to also tack on a disengage. Personally, I have found that a key point is a pretty heavy price for a disengage, but it's nice to have the option. And the double jump distance can be sneaky good. I have used that a couple of times. Monks tend to have a low strength, which is the factor determining jump distance, so doubling it can get it to 16 if you have a strength of 8, and for us it's going to be 20 since we have a strength of 10. Patient Defense, offering a free bonus action disengage, is solid, but the gold here is the bonus action dodge for a key point, which I have found is often worth it. I use that all the time in play. It is a great defense when you are engaging multiple enemies and you're surrounded and you're taking a lot of attacks. We also get Flurry of Blows, which is a nice little damage boost on occasion, and it gets pretty epic in Tier 3. We are going to start featuring it at level 12, as long as we have key points, because it has a boatload of damage. Then again, we get Unarmored Movement. It's an underrated ability. Monks have elite maneuverability. This matters. It's pretty awesome to be able to go from one side of the map to the other. It just gives you so many options in terms of what you can do and who you can attack. I am very pleased with Unarmed Movement, and it just gets better and better as we level. And we get Uncanny Metabolism. This is a great add for 2024, being able to replenish all of your key points when you roll initiative once a day. It's just a very welcome way to replenish your key points. It really eases the management burden is when you have a 2014 monk and it's just very hard to get your key points back when you're not doing a short rest. You really have to be kind of stingy with them as you're trying to manage your way through 2 or 3 battles before your next short rest. Uncanny Metabolism takes a lot of the pressure off. Moving into level 4, we're adding a third level of Mercy Monk. This is going to bring Deflect Attacks, Hand of Harm, Hand of Healing, and Implements of Mercy. Deflect Attacks is a solid reaction in 2024. The fact that it affects melee now in 2024 is amazing, and it's a big roll. It takes off a lot of damage. It only affects a single attack, and that is unfortunate. But still, especially in the lower levels, it can be pretty huge. When I'm playing this monk, it has been really clutch for me. And it's nice to have an option to do damage with your reaction. I've actually never really done that, or rarely done that, because it costs a key point, and I'm just constantly running out of key points, and it's like a dex save or suck for them to take damage. But when you really need it, and the enemy's on death's door, sometimes this can be cool. It's nice to have that option. Hand of Harm is a decent damage boost for a little mini Nova. It's only on unarmed strikes, so you can't do it on every attack, not with your martial weapons or your monk weapons, and it's guaranteed damage. Sometimes that's better than imposing a save, like with stun, and later it's going to get even better when it poisons them until the end of your next turn. Hand of Healing is fantastic for boosting our resilience. We can heal ourselves up as we go along and extend our stand duration, and it helps the team. Battle healing is always good. It brings people up, it takes people out of the danger zone, and later it's going to be able to remove some awesome conditions. I think it's very cool that they included Hand of Healing with Flurry of Blows. We can use one of our attacks at no additional cost to do the Hand of Healing, so we're going to be able to maintain normal damage output and get some battle heals out there. And then Implements of Mercy offers decent skills. Insight and Medicine are pretty solid. And it will allow us to also craft potions of healing if we don't choose to make scrolls of cure wounds. Potions of healing can be used as a bonus action now, so sometimes they will come in more handy than scrolls of cure wounds. Moving into level 5, we are adding another level of monk. We add Slow Fall and our first feat, which was going to be Grappler with Dex +1. We also get our proficiency bump at level 5. Slow Fall comes in handy sometimes. You can average no damage from a fall of any height by level 14, and it works very well with a combo that we will get to later at level 10. And just generally speaking, sometimes you fall, and it's pretty nice to not take damage from the fall. It is a reaction, but I have used it in play a few times, and it's cool. The real fun of this level is adding the grappler feat. That is such a fantastic control option that preserves damage output because of punch and grab. Punch and grab is elite. It allows you to do damage and a free grapple attempt every turn. It is unfortunate that it has to be on your attack action, and so you can't use it with the bonus action attacks that we get for martial arts or flurry of blows. I actually thought that you could when I first started this build, and I had a really cool combo set up with the quarterstaff and its topple mastery, but it didn't work in the end because punch and grab has to be done on the attack action, and so the action that I was going to use for the quarterstaff now has to be done for punch and grab. But it's still super awesome. It also synergizes with Hill's Tumble, because again, Hill's Tumble knocks your enemies prone, and prone plus grapple is fantastic. You can't get up from prone when you're grappled, so they are just stuck down there with all of their attacks at disadvantage, and everyone's attacking them at advantage except for your ranged allies, and it's pretty awesome. In fact, you can ask your martial allies for some topple weapon mastery while you're at it, because if your allies topple them and then you can just go in and grapple them, that's good teamwork and good tactics. Again, we have large form from our Goliath species ancestry, so we are going to be able to drag large enemies with no move penalty, and again, this is magnified by allies that create emanations. And don't overlook the value of dragging your own allies around. Being able to put your ally in the right place has some sneaky good value from battle to battle. Remember that grapple in 2024 now confers disadvantage on attacks to your allies from the targeted grappled creature, and we get attacks at advantage because of Grappler that is going to boost our own damage output. So yeah, grapple is pretty awesome, and it is especially awesome if you can get a fly speed through an item, obviously, since it's not attached to the class. But if you can get yourself a set of winged boots, for example, you will be able to use Grappler to drop enemies on the regular. And that's always pretty fun and thematic and tactically advantageous. With the half feat, we're going to bump our dex to 18, and that is going to improve our attack, damage, AC, initiative, dex saves, and our grapple save DC. So yeah, always level a little dex bump here, right? Moving into level 6, we're going to become a Mercy Monk 5. That is going to bump our martial arts die, so that's excellent. Even our daggers do D8 now. And we get extra attack. Extra attack is always amazing. I don't think I need to go into detail about that. And Stunning Strike is always epic as the signature monk ability. Got a little bit of a nerf in 2024. It is now only one time per turn, and the effect only lasts until the start of your next turn, whereas in 2014 it was unlimited times per turn, and it stayed in effect until the end of your next turn. So that's not good. But on the other hand, it is nice that it offers an effect even if the enemy saves. Your next attack will be at advantage, and the enemy's move speed is halved. So that's a little something. It's always nice for there to be an effect if they make their save. Pretty rare, too. Now, we are going to make a very complicated update to our attack sequence. I am not going to go over it on the video. I will put it up on the screen. There's a couple different options or different ways that it can go based on whether your grapple is successful or not, but it's very effective. It's also very complicated, so you read through it if you're going to play this build, and you'll get the hang of it eventually, but this is how you're going to maximize our attacks, abilities, damage, etc. Moving into level 7, Mercy Monk 6, we add Physician's Touch and get a move bump. So the bump to Hand of Harm, which now causes a no-save poison condition, is quite good if the enemy is not immune. It lasts until the end of your next turn, and it's a nice way to force enemy attacks at disadvantage if you don't quite stick the grapple plus prone, or you can even just target a second enemy. Get more crowd control out of your turn by dragging a grappled enemy to a second target, and then smacking him with a Hand of Harm and giving them the poison condition, and now 2 enemies are attacking at disadvantage. I also love the bump to Hand of Heal. Oh man, it is so cool that it can remove the stunned condition. That is very rare. That is very awesome. And yeah, it removes a bunch of other conditions too, and that's great. But it's the stun that really sticks out here to me. Man, that's going to be great when we encounter mind flayers or whatever. And again, a move bump is always nice for this build. We're up to 50 feet of normal movement and 60 feet in large form. That's fantastic, especially with a bonus action dash out of Step of the Wind. At level 8, we are going to go to Monk 7 and add Evasion. Evasion is always awesome, when it comes up. I still get a little jump in my chest when I hear roll a dex save for damage, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got Evasion, baby. I'm a defensive-minded player, always happy to add more defense, and Evasion is a great defense. Moving into level 9, we are going to Monk 8, and we get another ASI. We are going with Defensive Duelist to address our mediocre AC, which currently at this level is still only 17. This is going to give us a much stronger defensive reaction than Deflect Attacks. Remember, Deflect Attacks only works on a single attack, and Defensive Duelist works on every attack per round. So we're going to be using Defensive Duelist more, but Deflect Attacks is still going to come in handy if we ever get criticaled or want to do damage with our reaction. But very happy to add Defensive Duelist here. Defensive Duelist is even better than Shield at level 17, adding a whopping +6 to your AC. Oh man, that's going to be sweet. By the way, our AC is important. We are going to be looking to increase our AC with attunement items, like Bracers of Defense or Cloak of Protection. And keep in mind, if you're doing Bastions, level 9 is the level at which they can create uncommon magic items. So we should be able to create a Cloak of Protection and other good items. I only listed some good attunement options here, like Wing Boots and Weapon of Warning, but there are lots of non-attunement items that will make sense, like Goggles of Night or Rings of Resistance. Alternatively, you could take Dex +2 here, which would max our Dex for levels 9 through 12, and then we could bump our Wisdom at levels 13 and level 17 to get it to 20 by the end of the build. I decided not to because I like Defensive Duelist better. Dex 19 for levels 9 through 12 instead of 20 is a significant sacrifice, but it will make the build stronger in levels 13 plus, in my opinion. If you are allowed to retrain feats, that eases the sting a little bit, and you could take Dex 20 here and then retrain into 2 half feats at level 13. I play in Westmarches, which usually have a mechanic for retraining feats, so that would be possible, and then you would end up with a final Wisdom of 20 instead of 18 as currently scheduled. But I still like Defensive Duelist better. I like addressing our mediocre AC better, so that's what we're doing. At level 10, we add Acrobatic Movement from Monk 9, and increased maneuverability never hurts. It's not as good as a fly speed, which some other classes get, but we'll take it. It's going to allow us to add the drop as a signature move that we'll be using frequently. We would have been using it frequently earlier if we got a fly speed earlier, say at last level when Bastions came online and maybe we made a Wing Boots. But even if we don't have a fly speed, Acrobatic Movement allows us to make it part of our repertoire, and we're going to be able to combo, Grappler and our high move to drag enemies up a wall and then drop them for damage and prone. This should be fairly reliable and epic and thematic and awesome. It's going to bump our DPR while setting up our enemy for our allies, since the enemy is prone. And then we can follow it up with a grapple after the fall knocks them prone, right? We could do this on our first attack, drag them up the wall, drop them, then drop down using slow fall for no damage if desired, and then follow up with our next attacks, and maybe one of them can be a grapple, since grapple plus prone is so awesome. Moving into level 11, we go to Monk 10, and we get Heightened Focus and Self-Restoration. Heightened Focus is an epic add here. Bumping our Flurry of Blows to 3 attacks per round is a great bump to offense. Patient Defense, granting temporary hit points, is a fantastic bump to durability. Remember that temporary hit points last until the end of a long rest, and we get key points back on a short rest, so we can use this just prior to a short rest, get the temp HP, and then get our key point back. Step of the Wind gets a little bump where we can bring an ally with us. So if we combo that with grappling, which remember there is no move penalty for that, we can extract or relocate up to 3 allies at the same time, right? 1 in each hand with grappling and then 1 with Step of the Wind. So that is pretty awesome, actually. Being able to control the battlefield like that is a nice thing that this monk build can do. Self-Restoration is an awesome add to our defensive suite because eliminating Charm, Frightened, and Poisoned is elite. I mean, Charm especially can be attached to some really debilitating conditions, so just being able to get rid of it is really, really nice. It is a little bit annoying that it takes place at the end of your turn. You're going to lose an action or a round of actions, but it's still very good. And, you know, the Exhaustion Rider is a ribbon, but it might come in handy sometime. You know, exhaustion sucks, and if you can get rid of it faster, you know, all to the good. And we get another nice move bump with a normal speed of 55 and a large form speed of 65. Moving into level 12, we get Flurry of Healing and Harm, plus our martial arts damage die bumps up to D10 to improve our damage, Hand of Harm, Hand of Healing, deflect attacks, and patient defense temporary HP. But it's Flurry of Healing that gets a really big boost here. We can now do up to 3 applications for only 1 key point. That's 3d10 plus 9, or about 25 hit points worth of healing. That's a big boost to our durability, to be able to get big heals out of our bonus action, either for ourselves or for our allies. I'm loving Flurry of Heal. And Flurry of Harm is nice too, right? If we only need, you know, 1 or 2 hands of healing, being able to tack on a Hand of Harm for 0 key points is a nice bump to the damage, right? It comes online at the same time as our Flurry of Blows goes to 3 attacks, so yeah, if the whole attack sequence is dedicated to damage, we can pump out a lot with that bonus action now. It is unfortunate that it is only a Wisdom modifier times per day, but, you know, it's still solid. We'll take it. And remember, this is level 12, so this is the level at which we are going to only be deploying Hunter's Mark against big enemies that require 3 or more attack sequences, or when we're low on key points. Because Flurry of Blows is really lethal now, and so it is now going to be featured, and it is going to be our first option when key points are available versus most enemies. It's still nice against big enemies. It's still nice when key is scarce, which, you know, happens frequently when you're playing a monk. It's nice to have an option for increased damage that doesn't have anything to do with key. Hunter's Mark is still valuable to have in our back pocket. It's just that we've been featuring it up until this point, and now it's more of a backup option. Moving into level 13, we are adding Monk 12 for another feat, which we are going to use for Mage Slayer. That is going to bump our dex to 20, improve our attack, damage, AC, initiative, dex save, and grapple save DC. And this is a great feat, man. We have great move. We are going to be able to get to the caster enemy whenever we want to, and we're going to be able to break his concentration because our damage now is causes disadvantage on concentration saves. We also get a legendary mental save per short rest, and that is crazy good. That is 1 hole in our defenses. We don't have amazing mental saves since we have only proficiency in strength and dex at this point. But yeah, that has been a vulnerability for us. Not anymore, or at least much less so. Being able to automatically make a mental save once per short rest is crazy good. Alternatively, if you took Dex plus 2 back at level 9, you can add Wisdom plus 2 here. But again, I think adding Defensive Duelist and Mage Slayer makes up for losing a Wisdom plus 2. I like to have those on the build instead. But you can do what you want. I'm offering that alternative for you. Moving into level 14, we are now Monk 13, and we get Deflect Energy. Alright, it's a decent defensive buff, you know, when the enemy attack exceeds our Defensive Duelist AC, or if it crits, but it's still not good enough to make our go-to defensive reaction, which is going to still be Defensive Duelist, but, you know, it's a nice little add, can't complain. Moving into level 15, we are now Monk 14, and we add Disciplined Survivor. Oh man, Disciplined Survivor, formerly known as Diamond Soul, is amazing! One of the best defensive abilities in the game. We now have proficiencies in every save. We get a reroll for a key point. That is awesome. And combined with Mage Slayer, because even with proficiency in the mental saves, they're still not that amazing, even with a reroll. But with Mage Slayer, we get a legendary mental save once per short rest. We might never fail a mental save again, and I love that. We also get another nice move bump, moving to normal speed of 60 and large form speed of 70. We are now as fast as a horse, and we still have a bonus action dash if we need to. Although keep in mind, the opportunity cost of that bonus action is a like 40 damage flurry of blows, so use with discretion. Moving into level 16, we are a monk 15, and we get perfect focus. We get 4 key points whenever we roll initiative if we have less, and that's a decent bump, I guess, if short rests are hard to come by. You know, sometimes you do get into those really long endurance battles. I'm not super impressed, to be honest, but, you know, it could come in handy sometime, and, you know, I'll take it. Moving into level 17, we are now a monk 16. We get another ASI, or feat. We are adding Wisdom plus 2 here. That's going to bump our AC, our Hand of Heal, Hand of Harm, our Stun DC, and our Wisdom saves, and give us one more iteration of Flurry of Healing or Harm. And I like that. It's just one issue. It is going to mean that we're going to end up with a Wisdom of 19 at level 20. So if you don't like that dangling point, you could go for a Wisdom half feat here. Then you would end up at level 20 with a Wisdom of 18 instead of 19, and you won't have that extra point. I do like Fate Touched here if you are thinking the Wisdom half feat route. We don't currently have a teleport, and so adding Misty Step would be very cool, and then maybe something like Gift of Alacrity, or I haven't really thought about that because I chose not to do it, but if you do it, Fate Touch can be a good option. But I just thought T4 is just super dangerous, and so I didn't want to wait to level 20 to bump our Wisdom modifier. I wanted to get it to +4 now, and then that'll help us out throughout the rest of T4. Moving to level 18, we are now a monk 17, and we get Hand of Ultimate Mercy, as well as a bump to our martial arts damage die. It's now a D12, so that improves our damage, Hand of Harm, Hand of Healing, deflect attacks, and patient defense temporary hit points. But I'm not super impressed with Hand of Ultimate Mercy, if I'm being honest. I mean, it's decent when you need it, and it's better than Revivify, because you don't come back with only 1 hit point, you have a few more hit points than that, and it didn't cost components, but still, Revivify is just as good in most cases, right? And other people are casting that way back at level 5, so for a level 17 ability, I'm a little disappointed. I mean, it's better out of combat to replace Raise Dead since that has a higher component cost, and, you know, avoiding component cost is okay. I mean, we should be rich by this level, though, right? Yeah, I'm not super impressed. I would have liked to see a little bit more of an offensive boost here as well, and I don't like that it's just 1 time per day and you can't do it multiple times with additional key points. But, you know, we'll take it. Moving into level 19, we go to Monk 18, and we get Superior Defense. Oh yeah, Superior Defense is so good. Absolutely awesome defensive ability that gives us resistance to everything except for force. That's going to basically double our hit points. We can even pair this with a Ring of Force resistance to get full coverage, resistance to everything. Remember that a Ring of Force resistance is only an uncommon, and it is not attunement in 2024, and Bastions gave us the ability to make uncommons way back at level 9. So we should pair this with a Ring of Force resistance. And now our suite of defenses is absolutely elite. We have excellent hit points, armor class, defensive reactions, saves, we have evasion, we have slow fall, we have resistance to everything, we can perform battle heals, including on ourselves, and we are more or less immune to charm, fear, and poison. Man, that's sweet. We get our final move bump as well to a normal speed of 65 and a large form speed of 75. Yeah, we're faster than a warhorse. That is awesome. We can get to anywhere on the map anytime we want to. Love it. Finally, at level 20, we add our epic boon, and we are going to go with the Boon of Fate. I think that works so good with this build. A 2d4 bump to any d20 test for you or your ally in every combat is fantastic. I really like that ability since we have a really comprehensive suite of defenses already. Now we're literally manipulating the dice, and it just should come in really, really handy in pretty much every combat, I think. That said, there are plenty of good options here. All of the epic boons are super fab. I like Recovery the second best. since that's basically like an additional 50 hit points if you ever get knocked to quote-unquote 0. It's going to be a defense against power word kill, which, believe it or not, that happens sometimes in T4. And it does work very well with our superior defense, right? Those additional hit points are going to have resistance to everything, so it basically doubles that. Fortitude is my third favorite. Again, I think because it works with superior defense, but man, True Sight, Speed, Dimensional Travel, Irresistible Offense, they're all awesome. I mean, you really can't go wrong with any of the epic boon feats here. Pick whichever one you like. I like Boon of Fate the best. I think that works best with this build, but if you're playing it, do what you want. So that's it. That is the Mercy Killer, my first build for 2024. I think this build is awesome. I love how it came together. I think it's got a lot of great options and is strong in almost every phase of the game. I'm playing this build, having a ton of fun with it, having a ton of success with it. I am very pleased and proud to present it to you viewers. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like the build? Do you have any constructive criticism? Is there anything that you would do that would make it even better? Do you think it sucks? Cut loose. Let me know what you think in the comments. And regardless, thank you so much for watching. This has been Bill Bronze and Dragons. I'm your host, Bill Bron Bafflestone. See you next time.